Okay.
All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 2 Degrees podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. Today's guest, I have so much joy to have him on the show because he is genuinely an amazing person. He's super talented, and I've had the pleasure to share space with him when he came and visited Vancouver as well. And I don't know, like let's just dive into it, and hopefully by the end of it you'll feel the same way. But when I say like this man is talented, he's one of my favorite actors to come out of Toronto. So everybody, Adrian Walters, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. What an introduction. I hope I live up to it, man. I hope I live up to it.
what's
But
what's
yeah,
new what's new in the world of Adrian? How are you?
how am I? Beautiful question. I feel in this moment, I feel very calm, which I'm grateful for because today was a really busy day,
Hmm.
and still so many things to still get done. But yeah, I'm really grateful to feel pretty calm, man. And truth be told, your presence, man, your presence, you have a very calming presence. I hope you know that.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
coming
man.
on this, I was like, oh man, he just zened me right out. Just taking a look at my homie. But
Appreciate that.
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. These past couple weeks have been quite interesting.
Hmm.
You know, like for the past 3 weeks, I've really been focusing on like alignment, you know, and trying to make sure that I feel aligned, whether it's like reading the books, it's tuning into my faith, going deeper with that, as well as, taking the time to like meditate and just like listen to my intuition, and I really feel like I have been doing that. So I'm good. And I'm very grateful to
Yeah.
feel that I'm in that space.
So
So
with
yeah.
that, you say you're trying to get aligned. Out of the things that you mentioned, what seems to be a hindrance?
Um, it's interesting. Like I would say nothing seems to be a hindrance. It was more so like there was a moment a few weeks ago. And it has to do largely with this Kanye West documentary, man. I don't know if you've seen it,
Mm.
but
Thank
have
you
you
for
seen it?
reminding me. I haven't, but cause like I've been on the road, so whenever new shows come out, I gotta like find a place with Wi-Fi and download it. So I
Yeah.
have a spot now I can download it, but I've been putting it off. So thank you for that reminder. I'll definitely binge it tonight. But what's
Yeah,
resonating?
man.
What about that documentary is hitting you?
Is that it's just how much ownership,
Mm.
Kanye West takes of his greatness, and the things he feels like was put in him and how he takes the time to nurture those. It's really beautiful.
Mm.
Um, and more so the ownership, the ownership of his greatness. I just find it so, and I'm going to speak about it without trying to spoil it for you because I feel like it's a beautiful journey, just experience.
There, yeah.
But just the way he owns his greatness, you know, and he doesn't shy away from being who he is, and I realized that he always has been this person. Like I used to think there was an old Kanye. He missed the old Kanye, something like young Kanye. You know that like when he put that in a song, she said she missed the old Kanye, but it's like he's always been who he is, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I just took away what really resonated with me was that ownership, um, and having different opinions.
Mm.
Like he's always had very different opinions and he's owned them. That's actually something I feel I've always noticed in you too. You know,
Mm.
um, you
Thank
very
you.
much, you very much aren't afraid to have the outside of the box thought,
Mm.
and sit in that. You know, I've noticed that with you. Just for like from an observation. I don't even know if it's something we've talked about, but I've noticed that with you. Literally what you're doing right now. You know what I mean? Like you're not afraid to sit in that.
Well, with that, like not being afraid with what I'm doing right now, like there's a lot of fear that's associated
Mm,
with it too. So that I'm not gonna shy away or try and downplay that this lifestyle is just bells and whistles, but there's a lot of fear that comes with it. And I was having a conversation the other day where I think with that fear gives me an opportunity to be brave and courageous when
Mm, yeah.
I don't really have that opportunity. I don't think so, at least. But people can argue that with me chasing my craft and all that stuff. But with this lifestyle, it really gives me that opportunity to sit down and explore this other side of me, this other facet of courageousness that allows me um, an opportunity to get over these fears. Because the reality
Mm,
is, like, you can't be brave if there's no fear. There's no courage if there's no fear. If there's a world that's
100%.
lacking any fear, then you can't say the world is brave because they don't have anything to
100%.
be brave about. So yeah, but as you're saying,
Yeah, literally on that, and it's just like what you said. It's not playing small. It's not playing small at all, and going for it. And I feel like that's a beautiful through line in the documentary, of self belief. And going after the mission that's bigger than you. You know,
yeah.
which is what we get to do. We get to take part in telling beautiful stories. That far exceed our own individual level of importance. And it's beautiful. But I don't want to spoil it for you. I feel like you're gonna have a kick out of it, man.
No, let me write
It's
this
a
down
special
too before I
one.
like jump off this call and it's like, all right, that was a good call. Let me just go work out. Um, yeah, dope. Now I won't forget. Piggybacking off of that term ownership is I've always found you to be the most authentic. Um, to the
Thank
point
you.
too where it's like I look to you. Just like I look to
Oh,
all my friends for different qualities. I look at you when it comes to authenticity. So with that ownership, do you find that you're struggling with taking ownership, or where is your head at around that word and the definition of ownership and yourself?
mm, ownership. Um, it's like, let me think about this real quick. It's like having an idea or say a set objective, you know, um, and being very relentless about it, and unwavering is, I would say I'm there, but there was something about Kanye West's documentary that, brought to my attention, even more to my attention, like, force and allow, or pressure and allow, I should say. It's like moments where you should apply pressure to something, and moments where you should give space to allow.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like I'm like, with taking ownership, it's like I feel like I'm becoming more conscious of the moments where I should also apply pressure, because I can very much be, very, like, if there's something's coming this way, it's like, okay, let it do its thing, let it, let things flow. But you also have to apply a lot of pressure to certain areas, and sometimes you do have to stand on an idea, even when an expert, like maybe a rep, you know, says, "Oh, I don't know about that one." Let's, um, and finding ways to be specific, but also general.
So
Yeah,
with
I feel like,
with
yeah.
that though, so when it comes to applying pressure, can you give examples of times in the past where you felt you should have given more pressure in that situation, but you just kind of gave way to letting it flow?
Mm, okay. Yeah. Um, like, for example, like with the, let's say, the O1 visa,
Hmm.
you know, um, the O1 visa. So I'm currently in the process of finalizing that now. Thank God, with my amazing attorney, and
Nice.
yeah, just everyone I'm working with in regards to that, and everyone who was kind enough to come forth through the whole letter thing and whatnot and sponsorship. But it was something that I wanted to do. I should say, like maybe maybe 2.5 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and there were just a lot of opportunities on the table, really nice opportunities. And there was something that came down to it. There was a 2 week window, less than a 2 week window, from the time I auditioned for this thing to for it. And because I didn't have the visa, they went in a different direction for this TV show. It was on FX. It's called Deputy. I think it's FX. It's called Deputy.
Hmm.
I don't know what it's done. I think I've watched the first episode. I don't know what it's done since then. But I kind of told my rep saying, "Hey, I want to make a shoot my shot at this thing. As far as like going after it." And they said, "I don't know. Maybe we'll wait." And it was actually Kiana and Lavelle, interestingly enough, that kind of told me, it's like, "Yo, you're in a position to do it. You might as well do it. Don't listen to your rep. They don't actually know what it's like." Even though they deal with this process, sometimes they don't really know what it's like to be an actor coming out of Canada, getting into the States. They don't know that process. They're not really familiar. So she's like, I think I'll go against your rep and actually say for you to do it. But I kind of listened to my manager because they were thinking from the space of, we want to save you money. We don't want you to put 10
Hmm.
grand forth because you know the process, like 10 grand for it. We want you to save money. And I hear that they're coming from wise counsel, but at the same time, I feel like it was something I could have got on from before, and
Yeah.
I didn't. I was more so allowing versus applying pressure. And now that Kiana came back around, and Kiana's like, "Listen, if you don't, he's like, listen, hey, they're pretty much like, stop playing around, get this shit done.
Yeah.
Don't listen to your manager on this one, and learning that your team doesn't always have all the answers. You're
Hmm.
just as much of in control of this thing as they are,
Yeah.
if not more in control, because it's your ship,
Yeah.
and because of that, now it's so funny that they're all like, yeah, man, let's do it, yeah, man, like, you know, after you've already pushed it across the way, because it does open up more doors, and like you said, like that fear of like putting forth 10 grand,
Hmm.
and it's like their thing, like, we don't want you to be out 10 grand, but it's like it's going back to that ownership and like betting on yourself,
Yeah.
so applying that pressure, betting on yourself. um so I'm doing that now, and I'm very grateful, very, very grateful for
Beautiful.
where we're at in the process.
Awesome. With that, betting on yourself. You've been in this game for a while now. What was it
Mm-hmm.
like at the beginning, and how has betting on yourself changed? So from when you started, where was your confidence level at on this industry and going for it? And then let's say 6 years ago, where was your head at compared to now?
Interesting. Out the gate, I think I was just brand new. Oh my God, I want to be an actor. Just going off of excitement, really, with zero confidence. Like,
Zero. Interesting. Okay.
absolute zero confidence, man.
Mm,
And like, I felt like I knew that, like, I've always had respect for like industry. And what I
mm,
mean by that is like anyone who is of a craft and does a craft. I feel like I'm not gonna like, go to karaoke and if someone says, "Oh, you have a great voice," call myself a singer the next day. I feel like I have respect for that, and I
mm,
feel like you have to earn that before you can put that that thing on your resume or whatever. um so I knew I had to like do acting classes, because I'm like, that is just out of the question, thinking like
mm,
I'm just gonna go for this thing. And it's funny because before I did jump into an acting class, I kind of thought, I'm like, yo, like, I heard the stories of like, show up to your first audition and like, you book it, and next thing you know, you're like Brad Pitt or some shit. Right? So I actually have a funny story. So I managed to somehow like get my first agent without really doing anything. This guy was really nice to take me on. And also my current agent in Toronto, who I love so much, Strike Waylenberg, I actually also emailed her, and I sent the most basic ass email, like, hi, my name's, I didn't even give my last name. I was like, hi, my name's Adrian, and I want you to rep me. And she literally emailed me back saying, hey, thanks for your email. We're not expanding in your age range or your category. I'm like, I didn't even send a headshot. She just quickly read amateur. I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah. So she didn't want no business of that. And like, she's like, I only read people who seem like they know what they're doing or do know what they're doing, you know. And I just wasn't that person at the time. So she completely passed. And then I ended up going with the agency that shall be unnamed, that I did. And it was an interesting experience. It wasn't the best, which actually gave me the drive and desire to actually find new representation, which is where I actually landed with Shari now. But when I was under that agent, I remember going to my first audition. It was for like a TV series or something, and I didn't know how to take direction. You know, I like literally worked myself into a corner, or whatever I thought was work. I don't think it was much at all, but I literally went in, and they did the whole thing where it's like, all right, action, and I'm like, da 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 da, and she's like, great, okay, so so, so she's like, that was wonderful, loved it, and how about, you know, I love, I don't want to change too much, you know, I just, how about we just do this? And pretty much she was giving me subtle direction. She wanted to change the entire thing. She did not like what I did. So she's like, all right, let's try again. You know, I think she really liked my personality before she saw my craft. You know, so she's like, I really want this guy to, you know, be good. And I went da 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 da, and she's like, great. Let's try it one more time. One more time. I think we got something here. One more time. And I went da 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 da, the same exact thing. She's like, all right, thanks for coming in. That was so wonderful. And I don't think I've ever seen her again. You know?
Wow. Even to this date.
Never. I've never seen that
it.
casting director again.
Wow. Okay.
Never.
That's funny.
But it wasn't one of the bigger names. Thank God. It was like, it was more so like a star casting. So fair. Who knows if she's still in the business, but fair. And that was just a funny experience, and that taught me, get your ass in class. You know, I hate to rhyme, but I did. And I did that, and I remember I went to like a workshop, and there was like this LA casting director, which was pretty cool, and another local casting director. And I remember I like showed up front row, you know, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but someone told me always sit in the front row, you know, like you'll probably get the most, and it's also exposing yourself to that fear element of being seen, you know, which is the business, right? So I remember showing up to that, and that was a dope experience, and that's where I ended up meeting Ryan, because he was sitting beside me, and I introduced myself to him because I was trying to find friends, you know, like and like I remember hearing that saying, like, if you want to get somewhere, find a couple folks that are where you want to be, and then follow them, you know, until you're in a position of maybe leadership, but follow them. So I prayed for that. And I remember just going to class after class, and literally spending just all the money I had on classes. And that kind of gave me some confidence, you know, to think that, you know, this can go my way, maybe. And I've always been like, and I credit this to my mom, all that she poured into me. I've always been like super optimistic. So I had that, but like I also understood you need ability, you know, you have to respect industry. So I would, like, you know, practice as I was, you know, auditioning and going to these classes and just hoping to get better. But I would say a huge moment for me was where I truly felt like, oh, I think you can really probably do something special in this industry, was actually when you were on set. We were on set together for the old proverb. And I had a moment where I truly lost control of the thing, and I felt like a vessel. And that's where faith, for me, I believe in God. That's where faith bridged art. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, that was a huge moment for me. And thank God for, everyone involved that made that happen. And also a testament to putting together your own work,
Yeah.
as young artists coming up,
Yeah.
really trying to, find ways where you can practice in real time. And so that was a huge moment for me on the set of Old Proverbs, as you know, BDB self-produced. I'm not trying to plug.
No, don't worry. We're gonna circle back to that. We're gonna circle back to that.
I promise I'm not trying to plug. I promise. You're like, bro, you trying to like plug on my podcast?
That's what this is about, man. Yo, if you got plugs, you've already plugged Kiana, you plugged Laval, you plugged
Yeah.
BDB. You're gonna keep plugging. I know it. That's just, and don't think of it as plugging. Just think of it as giving credit where credit is due, and just
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you.
don't feel free. Like name drop if you have to. It's all good.
Okay, because there are a lot of hidden heroes, man. There's a lot of hidden heroes,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So yeah, Lavelle wrote that, and thank God for him and the role I got to play. And that was a breakout moment for me within my artist. Once again, faith bridged art, and I
Yeah.
realized how much I wanted to, keep those two together to see if I could continue to grow and what I experienced that day. And then next up was Judas Noir. I don't remember if you got to see it or not, but
I did not. I wasn't in town. I know. I saw out of latent stuff I've seen Adonis Project,
mm,
and that's it.
oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
Donna's project was crazy, but I feel
Yeah.
like Judas Noir pushed it over the edge. Like his
Ooh.
genius
I've
was
yeah.
able to,
I've
yeah,
heard.
people
I've
got to
heard.
see how smart he is,
Mm.
as an artist. And it was a great showcase for him. And he wrote it that it could be a showcase for everyone involved because we also knew we weren't getting paid. Like he's like, listen, we're producing this thing, so it's going to cost you money. So he actually gave me something. And once again, plugging. Thank God for getting around like a Leighton or like a Lavelle because Leighton gave us that. Leighton said
Wow.
when we started this thing, he's like, listen, we're self-producing it, so it's not gonna give you anything, it's gonna cost you money. So so he's like, what is one thing or two things that from the start of this production that you want to get out of your artist by the end of it? Because I don't think it's gonna be money. So what is that one thing that you want to work on that me as your director, me as your friend, fellow
Wow.
artist, can monitor for you,
That's a great
and I'll
question.
push you. And he's like, I'll be your monitor. So he's like, it's not something you have to say within, amongst everyone right now. Feel free, keep that between yourself if it's private, but come to me in your own time and just let me know. That way I can do my best. He's like, I'm not perfect, but I'll do my best to monitor that. And I don't remember what I told him, but I remember I shared a couple things with him. I'm like, I really want, to feel confidence. I really want to own space. I really want to take up space on stage. I really want to be a presence and not like leaning in an ego from ego, but just like digging down digging down and grabbing that self-worth, and really holding on to and trying to nurture that. And I got that out of the play, but I was terrified,
Hmm.
and I
Was that
remember
the first time you were on stage?
first time ever, man.
Wow. Wow.
First time ever, bro. And I remember I learned that fear's a fucked up thing. I'm sorry for swearing, but fear is a messed up thing because fear can manifest things in your body that aren't coming from an organic place just so you can sabotage, to not getting to that moment. Because I knew we had to go on stage like it was marked in the calendar. And bro, I felt the butterflies, I felt the nerves leading up, to that, leading up to the damn near curtain call, like curtains up. And I remember out of nowhere, my foot started hurting, and then my knee started hurting,
Hmm.
and all this bullshit. And there's so much dancing components. So I remember telling my mom, I was like, well, I can't go on stage because I can't dance.
Oh wow.
I can't do it. And my mind started to play tricks on me, and fear started to manifest all these aches and things out of nowhere that weren't organic. And I started to notice what it was. And I remember I'm like, well, the show has to go on. So instead of like voicing it, my fears and insecurities, I kind of kept it to myself and said, just like swallow it and like, let's see what happens soon as curtains go up. And it was so fucked because I was really scared because we even did like a practice run 2 hours before the first show. And the foot was still hurting me, all these pains and aches that I manifested. And I didn't realize what it was until the end of the first show. Because as soon as curtain wall call stood up, we went out there, we did everything. I didn't feel a single pain. Everything disappeared. It was literally like start before you're ready, you know? And everything washed away, and I was taught something that, like, yeah, like fear can manifest the most craziest things within your body, which is ultimately trying to protect
Yeah.
from feeling that ultimate pain that you think is ultimate pain, that experience that you think is going to kill you. And even though it's literally just like, saying lines on a stage for an hour with people, you think it's going to kill you. At least I did. I thought I'm like, this makes no sense. I paid my own money. Like, why am I here? Like, it's just like, you start asking yourself all these questions. Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And I remember me and Manny were kept looking at each other like, bro, we signed up for this. We're idiots. Like, we should have told him no. Like, we were going, like, don't self-sabotage your moments and opportunity for growth. That was huge, and that was, I feel like, the next tipping point of like ownership in terms of ability and trusting myself, that it's okay, I really do think you have something here, and just finding ways to carry that forward. And today I feel like it's stronger than ever. But it's funny because imposter syndrome can come up. There's one moment where you can feel, the most confident you've ever been. And you can put your work into something and you go and do it and you feel like it's just not clicking. And you're like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh my God. And all that good shit I was talking, I'm like, oh man, wait till we do this scene. Whew! All that good shit you were talking. But it reminded me, it's like, that's where humility plays a part in. Life will always find ways to humble you and to remind you that, things can be easily given and easily taken away, so find ways to stay grounded. And I'm plugging Kanye's mom because Kanye's mom's a genius. She was saying in the documentary, Kanye looked the most vulnerable I've ever seen, and he went to his mom. And this is like probably 2002, before he did anything really, as far as like as a frontline artist, not a producer, but actually, rapper or singer, what have you. And he went to his mom and he's like, Mom, do you think I'm too arrogant? And I was like, damn, Kanye's asking some of that. And she was like, no, I don't think you're too arrogant. I think you're perfect the way you are. But no, she's like, I think you're perfect the way you are. Cause she's like, you have to shine. You were born to shine. A star has to be a star. She's like, I don't think it would do you any good to walk around feeling any less than you are. So she's like, I believe that, the way you are is good. But remember, Kanye, is that you can have your feet on the ground and fly in there at the same time. Because she's like, a giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing. The world sees the giant. But when the giant looks in the mirror, they see nothing. Meaning like that humble perspective. It's like, you're no better than anyone else. You can allow people to put that on you of like whatever people assume you are. But at the end of the day, you should feel no bigger or better than anybody else, and you can still fly. You can still be great. You can still, do whatever you want to do. But just remember that, you don't need to, enforce your presence in a way that makes people feel less than. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a valuable lesson in life, and how I also believe that people should be, where it's like, be yourself. There's that constant thought of wanting to do what's right, and people having that ebb and flow of, I want to do what's right, I don't want to do what's wrong. But then the reality of it is, right and wrong are societal standards anyways. So just do what
Yeah.
feels good to you without hurting other people. And I think that's how life should be lived. If you know, I think if we would have like a more happier world, but because there's just too much greed, I think the
Oh my
violence
God.
takes over. So that's my 2 cents on Kanye's mom and what she said, where it's like that's the truth. I I genuinely feel that's true. So with that, knowing where you're at now and balancing that confidence with humility, I've asked this to a few people, and I'm let's see where your head is at. But
Mhm.
where's the line? Where is that line between confidence and humility that allows you, or any artist, that allows any artist an opportunity for success? Because if you're too confident, then that's a gamble. But then if you're
Yeah.
just completely um scared of and too shy of your own presence, then you won't take that step towards success. So where's that line between confidence and humility in your opinion?
For myself, right? Um, it's going back to like keeping it inside. I think it's like for all that you are, you don't have to say. You know,
Mm,
um, and like 'cause it's so interesting talking about this man because like going back to I don't mean to plug him too much, but Kanye West said something in an interview after that documentary. I went down this tunnel of just like researching him. I'm like, I want to understand his mind a bit more because I feel like he's misunderstood. Um, and he said the word humble. He said 85% of the word is um, almost negative, and I said, what? I gotta look this up.
mm,
You know, and when you do look it up, a lot of it is like terms that lean more so on the lack side than abundance. You know, um, so but I do still believe in humility, absolutely. But I was actually juggling between with like self-identifying with words, like affirmations, whatnot, and like speaking things to yourself and grounding yourself. I think it's important to be grounded, and I think more so grounded than humble. I feel like it's almost the
mm,
same thing,
mm,
um, but fuck, it's interesting because I'm still dabbling between those words. It's actually something I've been thinking about and journaling about a lot. Humble versus being grounded. Um, but I think it is important to be confident, like you said. But at the same time, you know, you can't be so sure of yourself to the point where you're forgetting to do. It's like to do the things. You know what I
mm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like to read the books, to read the plays, to study literature, to watch the movies, to soak up things, to have conversation with other artists. And I feel like I've been more in tune in the past couple of weeks with very blessed to read for a lot of material, which is wonderful. But to step outside of that and read the plays, you
Yeah.
know, I recently picked up August Wilson's King Hedley, and I was just reading a monologue and I was like, man, this is good. And like, if I even set aside 20, 40 minutes, or more so like 40 minutes, 20 minutes, not gonna get you much, but 40 minutes, you know, and just go over and just say it to myself and how that affects me. And it was about 2 nights ago. And I was just thanking God for like the fact that it's like, we're blessed with this craft, this artistry that I share with so many people, that like how good it felt to read August Wilson's word off the page and how I felt like
Mm.
that fed my artist, you know. Um, so I feel like, ask me that question again.
So the
I
line,
don't want to riff because sometimes I can go on a tangent.
no,
Um,
that's fair. But like with that, I think you kind of also clarified where it's just understanding the correlation and the differences with being grounded and being humble, when it comes to countering the confidence. But through that, you said something too about feeding your artist. What does it mean to feed your artist?
Mm, yeah. I got a great note. I don't know if you've ever trained with her, but Sophie Ann Rooney.
I haven't, but I've
Um,
heard.
oh, Sophie Ann Rooney at Raw Actor Studio.
Wow.
Plugged. She is so phenomenal. I took like a couple classes of hers back to back. I think two or three back to back, on camera and then like theater, which was dope. Just to like get a sense of how she teaches and how she shifts,
Mhm.
in terms of how she's teaching you. Um, and I remember at that point in time, I was taking a lot of acting classes, like just back to backs, and because I wanted to feed my artists. I wanted to put the time in. I wanted to, study and like maybe look at other people's work and like, take something from that. Because I noticed that even watching people teaches me a lot. It's like, oh wow, that's cool how they adjusted to that note,
Mm.
or yeah, just in general, just watching people's work. So I do enjoy that. Um, but she gave me a really powerful note that I felt like went beyond sitting in a class when it comes to feeding your artist. She said, I can walk outside of the studio right now and pull someone off the street. The classes were on Dundas at the time, like Chinatown. And she said, I can pull someone off the street, bring them upstairs, put material in their hand. And if they're in tune with their instincts and themselves as a person, they can read that thing and it can be brilliant. It can, you may be able to be like, oh, damn, like, do you do this? Like, do you have a past in arts and whatnot? And they can be like, no. And she's like, and I can equally give it to anyone sitting in this class, an Oscar winner, whoever. They put this military in their hand and it can be just as brilliant to someone who's never studied this thing ever, but they are in tune with themselves. And what that told me was, and she also added on to that. She's like, I think it's equally as important it's literally what you're doing right now. She's like, to go out and to see the world. She's like,
Mm.
go and feed your life. Feeding your life feeds your artist. Exposing yourself to new experiences, driving across the world. You're like literally the best example. Um, like really exposing yourself to that.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to be on the road, and then to stop in the middle of nowhere because you see like this beautiful sunset and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna chill and sleep here for the night. You probably now have that experience,
Mm.
so she's like, when you read that in a script, now you know what that is to be true. You don't gotta do no extensive process of nothing. You just know what that is, so she encouraged me to live. She said, live, go and fly, go and have experiences, go and, go and fall and pick yourself up, you know, go and, do classes, go do yoga, go do, go karting,
Yeah.
or whatever. She literally just said, live your life.
Mm.
And I feel like that has been the one of the most important notes for me when it comes to feeding your artist. And Leighton jumped on that note as well. Leighton told me that it's important, because your life feeds your work, so
Yeah.
feed your life, and that feeds your artist. So for me now, it's been like I did do a class, during the pandemic with Leighton, and I think I didn't do one-on-one. I think two sessions with Leighton, because he was a teacher for some time at Rocker
Yeah.
Studio, and I love working with him from like the time like being directed by him, and like him. We pretty much went back to that thing, like what do we want to work on, finding something specific and then honing in on it, and then by the end of the class hopefully we're there, if not 50% closer to that goal.
Mm.
But going back to, living your life, so I really leaned into that, and because of that, like I've traveled a bit more. Haven't gone anywhere too crazy, but I'm just constantly exposing myself to new life experiences,
Yeah.
and doing my best to, lean into the unknown
Mm.
instead of my fear, of what's behind the unknown, and just try and like take it one day at a time. But
I
that's
like I
feeding
like how
my art.
you said to lean into the unknown and not into your fear as if they're opposites. Cause and I always share the sentiment whenever it's brought up, but people always like to say It's the fear of the unknown that stops people from whatever. This great fear of the unknown. But then, if you really think about it, your fear is a cultivation of everything you know. If you're walking in the dark, it's not the unknown that you're afraid of. It's what can happen in the dark. And what can happen can be an experience from anything. It could be an experience for me, it's an experience from a horror movie where it's like if I'm in a dark place, somebody
Yeah.
can come out and stab me. It's not an unknown
Yeah.
fear. It's a known fear. This is what I'm thinking. This is what my fear is playing in my head where something can
Yeah.
be there. And it's like when or like the for me, I have an irrational fear of open bodies of water. And
Whew.
but it's like it's funny because
Yeah.
like I worked on a cruise ship and everything. So it's like people
Yeah.
want to say, "Oh yeah, you're people are afraid of big bodies of water because it's the unknown. What's down there?" And it's like, "Oh, my mind will tell you what's down there. There's a kraken, there's sharks, there's piranhas,
Yeah.
and it's like
Uh-huh.
it's everything that I know that makes me scared. The unknown,
Yeah.
there's absolutely no reason to fear the unknown because you don't know what it is, right?
Ignorance
So
is bliss sometimes, man.
yeah, no, legit. Um, but it's another thing that I wanted to echo off the sentiment from Sophie and Leighton is like, and I'm curious to see how this sticks with you because it can go in an extreme sense where I genuinely believe an artist is only as good as their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
To where I push where it's like an experience can be something you watch on TV. So it's like if let's say you watch DiCaprio your whole life, you know what he can do. You can imitate that. That's there. But then it's like people want to take that to an extreme and it's be like, oh, so you have to overdose on coke so you know and you can no, you don't have to do that. But you as an artist with your experiences, if you are empathetic, you can see somebody, you can study film, and you can empathize with what they're going through, and you can have still an experience. Even though it's not your experience, you're witnessing it. So you are
Yeah.
still gaining that experience from there. So yeah, like with that where it's like what do you take from that where it's you can only be as good as your experiences.
I believe that. I believe that 100%.
Hmm.
I'm gonna add something in as well, but I do believe, like Sophie Ann said, like she gave me the ultimate acting class. Step outside and breathe,
Yeah,
feel.
yeah.
Uh, and what's interesting is that very next year, I don't really like to say New Year's resolutions. I just like set goals. I'm like I don't ever want to be like in the gym or whatever at the top of the year, and then um but I said I want to feel. I had a conversation with God. I said, allow me to feel as much as possible because at the core of what acting is empathy, like you said. You know, um, and I remember that year I felt like almost too much. You know,
Hmm.
um, and it was something that I asked for, but it did feel very scary. You know,
Yeah.
um, feeling so I know, like I literally prayed for hyper awareness to my existence, and I felt it every second. And I'm like, whoa, this is fucked. Um,
Wow.
um, but yeah, going. I don't want to get off track here. Good as your experiences. Yes, I feel like also something I realized, like you were saying, is this goes back to a conversation I had with Lavelle, because Lavelle did say that. Lavelle's like, yo, like people be like, yo, so method or whatever, and then think you read something in a script and you have to go and do coke and like literally overdose and pray to God you come back so you can tell the story. It's like I don't think that's the journey. But understanding it is, and once again, you can have conversations with people, and if you open yourself up, you can tap into whatever that thing is. Um, and another thing I noticed really helps me is also prayer. The art, the bridge between art and faith for me is like just because I haven't gone through something doesn't mean I can't tell that story. It's like how you have Eddie Redmayne telling a transgender story. That is not his experience. You know, At least,
Yeah.
at least, just I don't think maybe we don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's his experience, you know. But with empathy, he knows probably what it is to feel like an outsider, you know, at times. Maybe the nerdy kid, you know, or the quirky kid in class when you wanted to be the cool one. So people kind of look at you, and maybe you wanted to be that thing, but you didn't know how to, you know, be that or whatever. You didn't know how to take ownership of that. So he told a story, you know, beautiful story, and the whole world connected to it. And that wasn't necessarily his experience. And I feel like for me, that's where like conversation once again, but also finding parallels between moments in that person's life and moments in your life. You can bridge, you know, because everything is on a feeling level ultimately. So we don't need to know the specifics, but I feel like everyone knows what it's like to be addicted to something, you know, and call this weird, but in high school I was addicted to candy, you know. So I knew, I knew exactly. I feel like you can bring me all those drug stories and I can tell it beautifully, you know. With empathy, because I really felt like I was hooked on it. See, I'm like, why can't I go? I'm spending all my lunch money on it. What is going on? You know, even almost prioritizing that over food. Like, it was weird. It was weird. And my mom's like, hey, I don't think that's going to work well for you. We have like diabetes in the family. So kind of chill out, you know? And my
So
doctor actually told
where
me,
are you with that now? Because you're a health nut now.
yeah, which honestly, that comes from my brother, man. That comes from my brother, Lamar Walters, personal trainer. Had to plug that real quick. Lamar, find him on
So
Instagram.
then what happens then if it's like it's 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 a long day on set and you're just exhausted and somebody just drops a bag of gummy bears in front of you? What are you doing?
Honestly, man, I'm probably staying away, man,
Hmm.
because like I noticed, like, especially for me, for like skincare and whatnot, like it's better if I stay away from the sweets, like, especially when I'm working.
Got
I
it.
try and like up the dosages of water, and just like, yeah, up the dosage of water. I try and, you know, keep it clean. But it is tempting, man. I'll tell you, I do like I usually hold out what for like the duration of filming, and then like say if it's like the last week or last couple of days, bro, I become a monster. It's like it's like I may as well have ate the candy,
Yeah,
because
that's
the
funny.
amount that I did eat at the end of it, if you spreaded it out, it was balanced. Like, so I may have well as ate the candy, because like now it came as one shot. My body's like, whoa, you know, and like you should see, man. I take cup. I almost feel shameful sometimes too. I'm like, I have access to it, but I almost like, bro, I have a trick where I put it in like the coffee cup when I act as if it's like two drinks or something, and I'm like, the fact that I'm trying to hide it makes it so like it's like I know I shouldn't be doing it.
So this is
But
this is out there now. If you have
oh
two coffee
yeah,
cups in your hand, one is candy. One
oh my gosh.
you're
Sometimes
trying to
two of
get
them are
away with
candy,
something.
man. Sometimes two of them are candy, and the water is the only thing I'm drinking. I swear, you know, like. But yeah, it's so I know what it's like, you know, to be or feel like something has a hold over you. And it was kind of like, and it's so funny because it was kind of like the life scare, where I went to my doctor and my doctor said, hey, can you come in? And I'm like, yeah, what for? You know, like I was kind of like, I don't want to see you. Like, what's up? He's like, I'm just looking through your blood work and I have something to share with you. I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me now. He's like, no, come to the office. I'm like, fuck. Like, what? And I was terrified, bro. I was like, what is he
Hmm.
gonna say? Oh my god. And he's like, I'm pretty sure you know that you have traces of diabetes in your family. He's like, what's going on with your sugar? And I'm like, what about my sugar? You know, like, and I being defensive about it, right? It's like, it was like a drug. And he's like, you're at risk for
Wow.
diabetes right now. Your sugar's on the edge. And he kind of just sat in silence with me to let me know the severity of that.
How long
Um,
ago was this?
this was 20, maybe 2017 or 2018, maybe.
Wow. Okay.
And that scared the shit out of me. And I can be an extremist. when it comes to if I get scared into a corner like that, when it comes to like my betterment, where I just literally shut it off instantly. I got so terrified I shut it off. Um, and but I'm crafty because I shut it off for a long time. And then I'm like, let me hold these dried mangoes real quick, you know what I mean? And these dried grapes, you know, raisins, you know, they're not sweet, even though they taste sweet. You know, it's not sugar, it's not candy, you know. But it is, bro. Sometimes it's more. It has more sugar than other stuff. And it's like the key word was sugar. It's like you need to chill out. So it's like, you know, I was finding crafty ways.
I think that needs some breaking down, because like there's good sugars and bad sugars.
Yeah,
And
100%.
there's a video that's going viral right now where this one girl was trying to expose how unhealthy plantain is. And she's like, do you know she's like, do you know
I've
how
seen
many
that.
calories are in this plantain? And
We
it's
don't
like,
care.
but like even that she pronounced it plantain should kind of like just make her argument void. But like
Come on.
that's good calories. You
Yeah.
wanna say that this plantain has more calories than a Big Mac? Okay, but this is calories that your body can use. This is energy that your body can use. So it's like
Mhm.
you're eating dried mangoes. Now it depends what kind of dried mangoes, because I've had dried mangoes that are like coated in sugar and whatever. But then it's like if you're getting quality dried mangoes, that's still 100% fruit and
I wasn't getting
so
those, bro.
fair. Gotcha.
You're trying to do me a favor. I appreciate it. To all the listeners, I wasn't doing that, bro. I was
Gotcha.
not.
Gotcha.
I was going for the sweet stuff, man.
Oh
100% sugar
man,
on the pack, man.
that's so
Like,
funny.
but going back to that, like experiences versus, you know. So it's like I've taken that before, like in an audition. I've yet to like actually play out, you know, an addict, but I've taken that in an
Yeah.
audition. And I felt like the truth was told. Yeah, you know, from that experience, and then the life scare. It's like it's very similar. If you go, someone doing something, and then you know your family tries to sit you down, your doctor calls you into the office. It's very paralleling experiences. But I feel like if you don't have that, my go-to, number one go-to, and big time saver, if I don't have the experience, is I pray to God and I was like, yo, connect me to this somehow, you
Mm.
know, allow me to experience and feel what this person feels in their day-to-day moments, in their private moments. And I'll do my best to get out of my way so the truth can be told, you know. um like I experienced that on the deepest level when we did Judas Noir, where you know was like where I'm like, oh, that really works, you know. Because in the moment, like Jesus pretty much like experiences. I played Jesus in the play. He experiences like world suffering, um, because you know, opposite of Lavelle played Judas and I played Jesus, and it made it that much stronger. It's such a wonderful learning experience to get to work opposite him. Brilliant artist. Um,
He's all right.
and yeah, he's doing, you know, he's kind of making it, you know,
He's,
doing
you
a little thing here and
know,
there,
he's
trying to find his way. You know, we'll give him time.
you know, it's thankfully he has Kiana teaching him. You know what I mean? Like it's
Exactly, man. You know, schooling into the game, right? Who else will? If we if he doesn't. But working on that, um, I remember, yeah, like reading in the script, and it's like Jesus has this huge, like deep breakdown of like just feeling pain and whatnot, because his friend Judas, and the way it's told in the story of the play is that that's his best friend. He's known him all his life, and Judas is sitting in purgatory, and he's like, "Yo!" And for one moment, he comes back before Jesus, and he's talking to him, and he's like, "Yo, like." You like Judas ripped Jesus a new one. I was like, oh my God, when I was reading this play, I was like, Lake, did
Judas
he do
ripped Jesus a new one?
a new one, man, a new one. He was like, he was because he was really challenging. And what's beautiful about theater, and you know this, is that the audience gets to experience it. The audience gets to chime in and have their opinions and their oohs and ahs and their you know, and all that. Especially when you have those 40-year-old black aunties in the crowd, man, they are not silent. But I remember like the world suffering, and I'm like, God, I got on my knees before the show, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know if I'll ever know what that is. That pain is, but the through line was heartbreak. I know what that is. So I literally before the show, I prayed to experience that on the deepest levels of whatever you want me to be able to tell the story. I literally got on my knees and prayed that between God. And I remember every time Lavelle would highlight something as Judas is like, yo, you say you're there for people and you're, oh, Savior. Where were you when this happened? And letting me sit in it, and really ask yourself that question. You saved this, you knocked this person off a horse to save their life. What happened to this person? What happened to this scenario? What happened to, the family members who have wrongfully died, gun violence, this, that, dropping it on me? It's like, where were you? You say you're there. You damn near write it in the Bible. You in fine print, you tell us what it is. So where were you? I'm just so curious. Please answer that for me. I dare you to, I almost want to sit back and let the audience say, tell us, you have all the time in the world. No one else is leaving, we're not going anywhere. So where are you? Where are you? Yeah. And every time he threw something, I would feel woof. I would feel sharp pain. And then it comes a moment in the story in my chest, like beyond heartbreak. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? But you're in the story, so you don't realize until after. But I remember I would feel these sharp pains in my chest, and just my whole body felt almost powerless. And then like I wanted, but I'm fighting against him to prove him right. I'm there, because in the dialogue, he has a moment where he's like, I'm there. Don't you remember this moment? Don't you remember this moment? And it's like you're fighting back through that. And like just trying to not prove him wrong, but to just convince him. It's like, I've always been there with you. I know this happened. I know this happened. I know that happened. I was there for it all, and it's like, I'm not saying I'm perfect where I can make life fine and dandy. We know that when we are born, we one day shall soon die as well. So it's like, I don't know how that's going to happen, but I can't promise you it's going to be the prettiest way or whatever. But I'm there with you. I'm there with everyone through it all. And I remember there comes a moment where we're having this heart to heart, and then Jesus like disappears in the story, like where he goes into a state of catatonia, I think, or catatonic state, where he's literally gone, his mind numb. And what that felt like, and the last words he said, I don't remember the last moment. He said something on the lines of like he was trying to get back to me for a second. But he said something along the lines of like, it's still all your fault. And hearing that, man, especially because of my connection to Lavelle as a brother, I remember like, I've never cried on the deepest level like that before. Like, I remember even after the play, I couldn't, like, my mind, I knew that everything's okay, but my body, based on what I prayed into myself, literally could not stop crying. Like, Lavelle came to me behind stage and said, I'm right here. And I remember saying, it's like, I see you, but it's like, I'm trying to stop my body from crying, and it was fucked up. But I asked for it, and I learned that it's like, yo, okay, so like, I don't have to necessarily know what everything is going into it. I can ask God to tell that story to me and just do my best to get out of my own way and to surrender control. And I know it can sound like a whole bunch of hibbity hoopla, but it's like, it's just something I've experienced, and it was truth. And it was just very powerful for me. Especially going through that with like, Leighton Lavelle and everyone involved. It was a cool experience.
Tell me about surrender, because that is key for artistry, is to have, and it's commonly explained in the process of letting go. So what was that battle like, coming to a place that allowed you to surrender?
For that specific project?
Not just for that specific project, but like leading up to that. And I'm pretty sure afterwards, like, it's still been a battle within this craft. But even from before, were you always able to just give yourself and make yourself a vessel, or did that take work?
No, that is the job. I find, like, doing the work to get out of your own way, because there was a lot of things in the script that I wasn't comfortable with.
Hmm.
I remember, and we had conversations about it. And I'm like, oh, cool, that's in there, but we're not going to really do it. Leighton's like, oh, yeah, we're going to do it. And then he kind of went off to the next thing. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, hold on here. I'm the one doing this, not you. You wrote it. So, like, you gotta bring it back and, like, talk to me here. Are we really going to do this? And it's like, yeah. Do you have a problem with that? I'm like, oh, but he also asked you that question in a way where it's like, he's trying to see where you go. This is an opportunity to grow in your artist, and that was not easy. That was not easy doing that. I find that I had to surrender every show. That was part of, but there was multiple times, even like throughout the duration of the show, there's moments where it's like, maybe in the first show I got over one thing. The next show there was still something I was dealing with. And then the
Would
next
you
show I
then say
surrendered
that
to
was
that
like
thing.
your first opportunity as an actor to surrender and give yourself to a character?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That was the first time experiencing that. And especially in front of an audience too, like feeling very seen, like you're literally allowing people to see things, like as you're giving over, which is why I did it, because I was like, people pay their money, and you have to offer a service. That's a little their job. We're servicemen. And it was an opportunity to grow. And I'm really grateful that, like, Leighton was there to, like, talk me through things, and not like telling me I need to do anything, but it's like, that's there. It's like, it's written. You accepted the role, you know? And that's also a part of it too. It's like, and I had a conversation with a friend about this the other day, is that understanding what comes with the job when we say yes to a role, you know? Because it was actually Kiana. Kiana was saying, because Kiana, we were like, because when the check comes in and it clears and you cash it, feels good, don't it? So,
Legit,
so,
legit. Like
so
we gotta definitely understand that everything we do is, for that check. You know what I mean? Like, they're not paying us peanuts. We need to understand that they're paying us for that service. Yeah, fact.
that surrender. And man, I'll tell you, brother, like, surrendering is something where it's funny, where I find, for me personally, like, sometimes I'll think like, okay, I'm learning this thing, and like I've learned a lot about like maybe surrender. I feel like I'm surrendering, and then sometimes I get around another person who is just coming in on this thing from maybe a different angle, or just has surrendered in another way. Like, working with Amin on the Porter was very interesting for me. It showed me how much sometimes I can control things, because you
Yeah.
go through like you go through like the beats of a scene. It's like, you read, it's like, yeah, there's the beats and stuff like that, and you play the beats. But I don't know what it is about UK folks, but he would, like, literally he would show up to set sometimes, and, like, jacket not on, tie undone, blasting his music, right? And he come on, and he's a dancer. He has a ballet, background. And I'm like, oh wow, he's like in his own space. I thought he'd maybe be probably like going over the thing and sitting in a space and keeping that locked, to release, especially in scenes that I know that are like, they're supposed to go.
Mm.
And I watched him pick up the sides, like, all right, all right. And I'm like, is he learning this thing right now? I don't know. I'm confused, right? And I literally watched him, like, put on the thing real quick, action, and do the layers and go through the moments, man, and deliver brilliance, you know. And I was really amazed, because I don't know how much prep went into that. I think something I actually spoke to him at the end of filming. I was like, man, I gotta say, like, I'm really grateful to have been exposed to you, you know, and your example, because he's a big fan of, like, you know, like when they say try things, you know, each take try new things. He's really trying new things. Like, like he's going as
Mm,
far left as possible. You know, he's not even adding on to what he did to the next take. Like maybe, you know, start the scene a different way, but like keep the base of it because that worked and that's in the blocking. He doesn't care about what's rehearsed or what's been already shot. He just does whatever he wants for the next take, and it's very interesting.
yeah.
Um, just like seeing that, and I'm like, oh man, and it forced me to be even more present to the
Mm,
environment because, you know, we know the scene. You read that thing inside out, and you go to do it, and you're like, oh shit, he did that whole thing. And it made me even more hyper aware with the environment and pulling the environment into that story even more, and letting that live. So he did a lot of that, and I got to speak to him about it. Like I really, like I just observed and felt production and just like spoke to him at the end and said, hey, I really admired that, like being exposed to that. He's like, thank you, man. He's like, honestly, he's like, he said for him it started when he did a stage show, and it had some racial terms in there and whatnot, and he was supposed to like this person pretty much like told him to like get out of here, like, you know, you black boy or whatever, and he's like, he's supposed to walk off stage, but he said in his body, because that didn't sit well with him, he walked up to him and like slapped something out of his hand in the play, and that's not written.
mm,
So he's like, it forced that guy to have to improvise, you know,
yeah.
and the play like really came alive, you know. He's like, it forced everyone to change, like that's not supposed to happen, you know. So now maybe he needs to like grab him by the shirt and drag him off stage because it has to go on. The entrances open, you know, your opens and your entrances and your exits. That's really important in a play, you know, of like what triggers the next thing. So now he has to improvise and like do that. And he's like, yo, woke him up because he's like,
Mm,
yo, I'm not good. He's like, he was walking off and he's like, fuck this guy, who's he talking to? This ain't slavery days. So he went and boxed it, and they gave it a new life, and I witnessed him do that on the set of the quarter a lot, and I'm really grateful
mm,
for it. You know, yeah, it just showed me how much more I can surrender. You know,
yeah.
to yeah, it just showed me how much more I can surrender, and to give yourself over to that, and like it's scary because like I don't know how you work, but I like to like really inspect that scene, you know, and really look at it like million different ways it can be played, because I feel like once again we're paid to show up, you know, and we're paid as that part of our job as actors to have ideas, you know,
Mm,
beyond the director. It's like, what do you do if no one directs you? You better have something, you know. Um, so I believe in that, you know. But someone who's coming in with no shape, no mold, no nothing, it's just like I don't give a fuck what happens,
yeah.
you know. That's it was very interesting to me, and I'm really grateful to have been exposed to that
Nice.
in
I,
terms
I
of
ki- I
surrender.
kind of adopt that style as well, where
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely believe you're not gonna learn anything new about the scene the day of. In the
Yeah.
moment, sure, stuff can happen in the moment, but like from when you go into like auditions, um, if you get the sides, you break it down the million ways that you know how. The next day, I'm not even looking at it
Mm,
until right before I go in because I need to refresh the words. But
yeah.
you did the work and you need to
Yeah.
trust yourself. And I think that's a big step with surrendering is you need to trust
Yeah.
that you did all the work. I
Mm-hmm.
want to say it was Kobe who said it, where it's like the only people that are afraid are the people that didn't do all the work. So it's like if you're in the audition room, if you're the waiting room and you're going over your lines, it's like,
Yeah.
why? Why are you so worried? Is it because you
It is
didn't
so
do the
true.
work?
You have nothing else to learn. That you better keep yourself open and free.
right? So then that's where like being in the moment is the other job of the actor, where it's like, okay, you did your homework. If you did your homework, you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do on the day of is just be present. And
Yeah.
then that's like the thing that I love too, like filming dramas where just joking around, I think really lets go. Not to say that if you have a serious scene, you shouldn't, take it serious and really invest in the emotions that are going to come out. No, sure. But
Yeah.
until the camera starts rolling, those emotions don't need to go anywhere. So
Yeah.
it's just like, just
How are
relax.
you with How are you with that?
It,
With
it,
taking space, especially for like emotional scenes. For you personally, do you like to keep yourself in like to yourself, or do you give yourself the space to like interact and engage and say if there's like a joke, involved? Like, it's like if you're working on a set where similar age demographic and everyone connects, do you allow yourself to take part in like, that? Or do you take space to yourself to hold the integrity of your work? Or do you feel like it doesn't matter for you?
so the first thing is, do I get emotional in the scene or do I come in emotional? If I get emotional
Mm,
in the scene, then there's no reason to have to hold space beforehand, because
mm,
all I have to do is just be present, and whatever happens in the scene will get me to that emotional space.
no, I feel you.
If I have to start with that emotion going into the scene, the big thing that helps me is notes. It's
Mm,
so much easier to have the notes down on where I need to be to remind myself where I have to be. Because then if I have to do all the thinking in my head, then I have to kind of stay away and not partake in the jokes and stuff like that.
yeah,
Because now I'm playing the remembering game, when I think that's the death of an actor right there. Is like, you're just giving yourself an extra job to do. You already have
yeah,
to remember all these lines. Now you want to remember circumstances, and you want to remember, where your thought has to be. Whereas if you just worry about the lines and just read it, it's so much easier. Like, I'm such an
yeah.
advocate for notes. There was this one time, there was this one acting coach who said, "You don't need to take notes, just be present." And I fucking lost it on him. I was like, "Are you?" I'm here because my friend brought me and said that you had something good to
Yeah,
say. I
yeah,
don't need your notes. I don't need your
yeah,
class, but they do. And you're feeding
yeah,
them this bullshit? Nah, I gotta step up. Cause like, that's the worst part about it is, on top of having to remember your dialogue, you're nervous. There's absolutely nobody who doesn't have nerves.
oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
It's the top tier people, they look like they don't have nerves, but the thing is, they just know how to manage those nerves. That's the
Yeah,
difference. They don't go there with complete confidence. They know that they're also contract players, and the reason why you know that they're nervous is because they also know all their lines. They do
yeah,
the homework, right?
yeah,
And they ask all the same questions, and they are just as nervous as you. They just know how to handle it. That's the experience. The
yeah,
experience isn't getting rid of the
100%.
nerves. And so with that, where it's like, why give yourself that extra job of needing to remember more? Why not give yourself,
Mhm.
grace, and just
Yeah.
write it
Amen
all
to that. Giving
write it
yourself
all
grace.
down?
That's
Because
key.
that's the only thing, is like, we make our jobs easy or hard. What do you want to do?
Yep, 100%, man. Me and Lavelle have those conversations all the time.
Yeah.
How can we make this process more efficient for ourselves?
Mm,
Because peace of mind is the goal.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
don't
that's
give that
that's
away.
all you want when you go into a scene, is you want to be at peace, so then you can be present, and
Yeah,
as present as you possibly can. Because in that moment, somebody does something that's off script. How are you gonna take it? Is it gonna
yeah,
completely throw you? And then I tie that in where it's like, at the beginning phases of my acting, I just like you, I get married to my lines, or it's like this is how it has to be. This is the way I studied it. This is the way. But then it's like
No, that's not what I was saying. Like, this is not the way it has to be, but it's like knowing a million different ways it can go.
no, I'm talking about when
Yeah.
you did your first audition and you couldn't take a no.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you got married to your line and you're like, this is how I studied
Oh
it. This,
my
you know what I mean?
gosh. Are you
So, but
kidding
then
me?
it's
Yeah.
like, but then that's the ego now where it's like the way you studied it the one way. When in reality, there's a million ways that you can play it. So now it boils down to you as the artist to do the due diligence and go
Yeah.
through the million steps. And then I think where it comes down to with experience is you as the artist now know, the experienced artist now knows which of those million you don't have to go through.
Yeah.
But then it's like it's a process of elimination where you need to experience it first
Yeah.
before it gets inside you as part of your prep, because that's this industry is. And like you were saying about taking ownership and when to apply pressure and when not to, it's a learning thing.
Hmm.
Where same thing with me, where there was a year that I decided to go down for pilot season and I wasn't ready for it, and my manager was like, you know, you don't have to come down. But me, again, not knowing
Oh
that
my.
line of confidence and humble and grounded, I
Yeah.
was like, no, I gotta go down. This is my
How
time. Like,
how how busy did it get? Like, what's the most you had to turn in one day?
there were days that I didn't even have an audition.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I left LA feeling defeated,
I want to
but
touch on that too.
yeah,
I
where
want to touch.
it was a learning curve for sure, but definitely left defeated.
Hmm. Um, with that, like going back to what Sophie Ann gave me, um, is that making sure, your life is just as interesting as your career,
Hmm.
and really
Yeah.
taking into account of like how you can make each day exciting for yourself,
Yeah.
scheduling yourself, having self-care routines, and that's something I'm really huge on. I really believe that it's really important to take care of our minds, take care of our physical body, our spirit, um,
100%.
and yeah, like how can we cultivate that space for ourselves? And it doesn't need to be something that takes 50 hours in the day because we only have 24.
Yeah.
But how can you maybe set aside 10 minutes to meditate, or 5 minutes to write down things you're grateful for? Um, and I feel like that helps us hold a perspective over giving an audition ultimate power when it comes to like self-worth and self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I find that really early on, I really struggled with that, um, because I was giving it so much power. Xavier, like, you would not believe how much power I was giving this industry, and each audition and what it meant to me. Like, I don't know about you, but I wanted to be on the grassy, and I'm, bro. Let me tell you, like, I wanted to be on this thing so bad, and
Yo,
then an
I am
audition
with
finally
you.
opened up, right?
Yeah.
And an
Tell me
audition
about your
finally
audition. I'll tell you about mine.
Yes. So an audition finally opened up, and at this point, it was when Larissa Mayer was casting. Stephanie Gorham was like the casting director, some back in the day. But Larissa Mayer was casting for it, and I went in. No, I put a tape together. It was like an open call, and I'm like, man, this is my chance. So, so I remember, um, before an act. No, I think it was after an acting class at Louis Bowman Acting Studio. I was doing a session there. I booked I think I booked an hour for a studio. Right after class, I went over to the empty studio. I put this thing on tape with the fellow actress that was there. I didn't know if it was good or not. I'm just like, I just try to put everything I could into it, just throw as much energy at it as possible, time and attention. And then I got a call back.
Hmm.
And I remember the callback was in the room with Larissa Mayer. And she really enjoyed what was on the tape. So she was really excited when I came into the room, and I was like, oh, wow, that feels nice. I really felt like she was rooting for me. And it was just something about, I don't know what it was, but I started reading my lines and I did it. And she's like, great, let's do it again. Just do this. Literally, bro, the entire thing left me. Like, the entire scene. I maybe remember the first two lines, and I'm like, yo, like, what is this, bro? Like, I am confused, bro. Like,
Wow.
God, like, I realized God loves to laugh more than anybody. I've never met a person who loves to laugh more than God. He's like, oh, you thought this was yours. You know? I'm gonna teach you humility. You ever heard of that word? You know, like, bro, like, it left me, and she's like, you know what? It happens. She's like, give yourself a couple minutes. We're just gonna sit here and do our thing. Give yourself a couple minutes. I'm like, all right. She's like, do you want to look over the sides? I didn't bring the sides, right? Overconfident ass, right? I didn't bring the sides.
Yo.
I left it outside the room. So she's like, you can have these. It's fine. Just trying to do me a favor. Bro, I'm like, all right. I read it over and I got it. And I went to do it. Like, I literally was like reciting to myself. I stopped looking. I got it. I'm like, all right, let's do another take. Bro, that thing left me sooner. Like, I must have said the first word. And it just kept building pressure until my mind felt like it was going to explode.
That's so funny.
And because of that, I remember I had a fear of reading for her. Like, because I felt like she was always going to remember
Like,
this.
the way Canadians idolize the casting room is beyond me. And I was in the same boat where it was like, I gotta go in the room and I don't bring your sides, and
You know what I mean?
Don't make small talk. This is serious. Bring your
Yeah.
character. And it scared the living shit out of me in the early days, man. And then that was one thing I was grateful for, that first pilot season experience, was that I saw how the room really was.
Mm.
And it was nothing like Canada.
Yeah.
And people with their sides, people with their own character choices and stuff like that. And like,
Yeah.
it just opened my whole world up to approaching auditions differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And taking ownership and power back. That's key.
Yeah.
That's like piggybacking on, that experience was I had to eventually take my power back, where I realized because of this past experience that I had, I was allowing it to consistently come up and get in the way of present day opportunities. So like releasing the past was a big journey for me, and I feel like many artists can relate to that. Literally having amnesia. It's important to have amnesia in your craft, and like basketball players talk about all the time. It's like, if I'm the leader of this team, it's my job to go out and shoot 20 shots, even if I missed the first 10. And yeah, it's upon me. And if you keep throwing the ball at the wall, good things happen. So I had to release the past when it came to Larissa Mir, and then it was actually booking something with her. That actually like put it in a space where I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. Like,
No, she
like
really
she really,
champions. She really
yeah,
champions.
man. But yeah, releasing the past and self-care, I should say, to get over that journey of like holding on to things, and also just keeping the power in your hands. Because if you don't, you allow yourself to be powerless. And it's true that there is little to no control. But when it comes to yourself, I feel like we do have the ultimate control in terms of how we navigate our days and our inner world. Like, what kind of materials are we feeding ourselves? What kind of things are we listening to? What kind of songs do we choose? Because we're living in an interesting time and day where a lot of the songs that are playing are like downers. They encourage sometimes exclusivity, as well as encourage being lost. You know, encourage being a savage, being turned off instead of turned on. In our feeling life, and as an artist, that's dangerous for us. especially, you know, if we're turning ourselves off in any way. So yeah, I feel like it's really important to, for all the things that we can control, we really take ownership of that. Like, what kind of songs are we listening to? Don't just listen to everything on the radio. Make a playlist, you know, of curated playlists of how you want to feel, and then put songs in that does make you feel like that. And journaling,
Yeah.
you know, being able to get your thoughts out. Yeah, those are huge things for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Adrian. But we're definitely way over time.
Oh
this is
man,
this
are
has
you
been
serious?
this has been such a fantastic talk, man. But I definitely got to bring you back, and we got to talk more for sure, because that's the thing that I love about you, man, is that we could talk, and we could just throw ideas and just bounce ideas, and we both have experienced so much that we got so much to say, and I appreciate you so much for that authenticity that you bring. So thank you so much for coming out, man.
Thank you, brother. You as well, man. Always a pleasure, man.
Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. 2 Degrees Podcast, brought to you by the Play On Foundation. Adrian Walters, check him out on the Porter. That's the latest thing that's come out, and that's, well, he's definitely gonna book something else by the time I release this episode. So stay tuned, follow him,
Thank you, man.
and make sure that, like, I told you this before, man, and with every ounce of respect to Chadwick Boseman, but I genuinely feel like that's the footsteps that you're following in, and you're
Wow.
about to shine in that, man. And I'm just keep at it, man. Keep at it. So again,
Thank you,
thank you
brother.
so much for coming out, man.
God bless you. Love you, brother. Thank you.